Jake Marlowe wiped sweat from his forehead. The twin suns above Gorin 5 were hot, and the alien market was loud and crowded. Traders from across the galaxy shouted prices, strange smells filled the air, and colorful creatures walked past his small stall. But no one stopped to look at Jake's things. He sighed. His supplies were nearly gone. His spaceship needed fuel. And he only had one thing left to sell: a glass bottle of old Earth whiskey. Jake looked at the golden-brown liquid inside the bottle. It was smooth, aged 20 years, and came from an old distillery back on Earth. He had saved it for a special moment, but now he needed food and credits more than a sip of good liquor. "Come on," Jake muttered. "Some alien out here must like human whiskey." He stood up straighter, wiped the dust off the bottle, and placed it on a velvet cloth. A few aliens walked by and glanced at it, but none seemed interested. Then something strange happened. The crowd became quiet for a moment. People stepped aside as a tall, elegant woman walked into the marketplace. She was dressed in flowing green robes. Her skin was silver blue with golden markings along her neck. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly. "Lady Velzari," whispered someone nearby. "That's the widow of House Triveth." Jake didn't know what that meant, but it was clear she was important. Velzari moved slowly, with grace and power. She passed many stalls but stopped at Jake's. Her golden eyes locked onto the bottle. She pointed. "What is this?" Jake stood up fast. "Earth whiskey. Very rare, very smooth, aged 20 years in oak barrels." She looked at the bottle closely. Her hands were thin and long with silver rings. She lifted the bottle, opened the top, and sniffed it. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she took a small sip. A long pause followed. Then her lips curved into a soft smile. "This reminds me of something long lost." Jake stayed quiet. He didn't know what to say. Velzari placed the bottle down gently. "How much do you ask for it?" Jake blinked. 10 fuel crystals, or a trade of equal value." Without another word, she reached into her robe and pulled out a small, glowing gemstone. It pulsed softly with a red light. "This is a heartstone, worth 20 crystals," she said. "I offer it not just for the whiskey, but for the feeling it gave me. A feeling of memory." Jake stared at the gem. He had never held something that valuable. "Deal." She handed him the stone and took the bottle. Before leaving, she looked at him again. "I am hosting a small gathering tonight at my estate. As a guest of honor, I invite you." Jake was surprised. Sure. I'd be happy to come." She nodded once and handed him a small cube. "Place this on your chest when ready. It will bring you to me." Then she turned and walked away. That night, Jake stood outside his ship. The sky above was filled with stars. He held the cube in his hand and pressed it against his shirt. It stuck for a second, and then a soft light wrapped around him. In a blink, he was gone. Jake appeared in a large open hall made of silver stone and glowing crystals. The air smelled like flowers and sea salt. He looked around in awe. "Welcome," said a voice. It was Velzari. She now wore a long silver dress and had a crown of light floating above her head. "Follow me." He followed her through the hall and into a private chamber. There, 3 young women were waiting. "My daughters," Velzari said. Jake blinked. "You have daughters?" she smiled. "3, though not by birth. I adopted each when they lost their own families. Rila, Sava, and Mirix. The first Rila was tall and strong, with green skin and sharp eyes. She looked serious and calm. The second, Sava, was shorter, with golden fur and large ears. She smiled shyly and held a small book in her hand. The third, Mirix, had purple hair, glowing tattoos, and a smirk on her lips. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Hello," Jake said awkwardly. All three girls looked at him closely. Is he the one, Mother? Asked Rila. He smells like earth whiskey, said Myrix, raising an eyebrow. Sava giggled. He looks nice. Velzari turned to Jake. You shared sacred drink with me. You accepted my invitation. In my culture, this means something deep, something ancient. Jake felt nervous. What do you mean? She stepped closer. On Gorin 5, when a noble shares a memory drink with someone and brings them to her home, it becomes a trial bond. You are now a suitor to my house. A suitor? Jake repeated. She nodded. My daughters have the right to court you. If you accept one or more before the first moon rises, you become part of our family. Jake's eyes widened. Wait, you're saying your daughters? Yes, Velzari said calmly. They may now call you husband, though it is only a title unless you choose. Rila stepped forward. I accept the trial. Sava nodded shyly. Me too. Myrix smirked. Well, this could be fun. Jake looked at them in shock. Hold on. I didn't mean to start anything serious. Velzari placed a hand on his shoulder. You did not know. That is understood. You may walk away if you wish, but if you stay, you must face the customs. Jake rubbed his forehead. This is crazy. I just sold a bottle of whiskey. Sava giggled again. A powerful drink, human. Rila looked at him seriously. Will you stay and learn about us? Myrix winked. Or are you too afraid of 3 alien girls? Jake looked at each of them. He had nothing waiting for him in space. No home, no family, just an old ship and bad luck. Maybe, just maybe. This strange turn of fate was worth exploring. He took a deep breath. I'll stay. For now. All 3 girls smiled. Welcome, husband, they said together. Jake Marlowe didn't sleep much that night. He lay on a soft bed made of some strange glowing material, staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of questions. He had only wanted to sell his last bottle of whiskey. Now he was in a huge alien estate. 3 beautiful alien daughters called him husband, and their noble stepmother said he had entered a trial marriage by accident. Jake sat up and rubbed his face. What kind of crazy planet is this? The next morning, a small floating robot entered his room. It looked like a metal ball with blinking eyes. Good morning, honored guest, the robot said in a cheerful voice. Lady Velzari requests your presence in the garden. The daughters will meet you there. Jake groaned. Of course they will. He got dressed, wearing a robe that was given to him, soft, smooth, and way too shiny for his taste. Then he followed the robot through. Long crystal hallways and strange glowing doors. The garden was beautiful. It floated above a sparkling sea and was full of alien trees, strange birds, and purple flowers that hummed. Velzari was waiting there, sipping a silver drink. Did you sleep well, human? Jake gave a tired smile. I guess. Still a little. Confused, though. She nodded. Understandable. Today, my daughters will begin the bonding trials. They each wish to spend time with you. You may choose to accept or refuse any of them. It is your right. Jake rubbed his neck. What happens if I don't choose any of them? Velzari looked out over the water. Then the bond ends with the first moon. You will be free to leave. No harm will come to you, but the chance will be gone forever. Just then, the daughters arrived. Rila wore simple armor and a long cloak. She looked ready for war. Sava held a stack of books and tools in her arms. Her golden fur was brushed neatly. Myrix had on a black suit with glowing lines. Her eyes were sharp, and she grinned like a hunter. They stood in a line, waiting for Jake to speak. Velzari stepped away silently. Jake cleared his throat. So, bonding trials? Rila stepped forward. I request to take you on a hunt. In my culture, surviving the wild shows strength. If you are to be our husband, you must know how to face danger. Jake blinked. Danger? Like real danger? Rila nodded. Only a little. Before Jake could say no, Myrix spoke up. I'll go too. Watching you run from monsters sounds fun, Jake sighed. All right, let's get this over with. The hunt took place in the forest cliffs behind the estate. Rila gave Jake a small stun blade and a heat tracker. Myrix carried 2 energy pistols. They followed strange glowing tracks into the trees. What are we hunting? Jake whispered. Stoneback lizard, Rila said. Fast, strong, but not too deadly, if you're careful. Myrix laughed. Unless it's hungry. Jake swallowed hard. Soon they found one. It was big, twice Jake's size, with thick armor plates and a mouthful of teeth. It roared and charged. Jake ran. Rila stood her ground and threw a stun dart. Myrix flipped into the air and shot at the creature's eyes. But the beast kept coming. Jake tripped on a root and rolled down a hill. The lizard chased him. Panicking, Jake grabbed a flash grenade from Rila's belt and threw it behind him. The explosion blinded the lizard for a moment. Then he saw a pool of mud and a sharp cliff behind it. Hey, ugly! He shouted. Come! Get me! He jumped over the mud. The lizard charged again, but slipped and flew off the edge. Silence. Then Myrix burst out laughing. You tricked it! Rila helped Jake up. Clever. Very clever, Jake panted. That was too close. Rila looked at him with new respect. You have the instincts of a fighter, Myrix grinned, or the luck of a fool. Either way, I'm impressed. The next day, Sava requested her time. I don't hunt, she said softly. I build. She took Jake to her lab, full of machines, wires, and glowing screens. I want to create something with you. That is my way of bonding. Jake nodded. What are we building? She smiled. A glider. One that runs on solar wind. Together they worked on it. Sava was smart and gentle. She taught Jake about alien tools, and he shared old Earth tricks, like using rubber rings to seal a vent. They talked about books, music, and stars. Jake found her calming, kind, thoughtful. After hours of work, the glider hovered in the air, smooth and silent. You have a builder's heart, Sava whispered. Jake smiled. You're pretty good yourself. She looked away, shy again. Thank you. Husband? Jake scratched his head. Still not used to that. Later that night, Myrix appeared at his door. My turn, she said. Jake blinked. Didn't you already go hunting with me? Myrix smirked. That was for Rila. Now you get me. She took him to a dark room filled with flashing lights. A simulation chamber. Let's play a game, she said. War strategy. Winner chooses the prize. Jake raised an eyebrow. And if I win, you get a kiss, she teased. From me? Jake laughed. And if you win, she leaned in. I get to keep your pillow. Jake didn't understand, but agreed anyway. The game began. Armies, ships, traps. Myrix was fast and aggressive. But Jake played slow and clever. He used fake moves and hidden tactics. After an hour of battle, he surrounded her base and won. Myrix stared at the screen, shocked. Then she laughed. You beat me. No one ever beats me. Jake grinned. Guess, I'm full of surprises. She walked up to him and kissed his cheek. Not bad, for a whiskey trader. By the third night, Jake was exhausted. All 3 daughters had shown him different sides of themselves. Rila was strong, silent, and brave. Sava was smart, soft, and kind. Myrix was wild, sharp, and clever. Jake sat on a balcony watching the stars. The moon would rise in 2 days. He had to make a choice soon. Lady Velzari walked up beside him. You have done well, she said. Jake chuckled. I didn't do anything. They're the impressive ones. She nodded. Yes, they are. Jake turned to her. What if I can't choose just one? Velzari's eyes glowed. Then you must choose with your heart. That is the rule. She placed a hand on his shoulder. But choose, you must. Jake Marlowe woke up feeling strange. Not bad strange, just different. For the past 2 days, he had been tested, challenged, and courted by 3 alien daughters. He had hunted a giant lizard with Rila. He had built a solar glider with Sava. And he had played a battle simulation with Myrix and won. Now he sat in a round room with open glass walls. A warm breeze blew in, and far below the sea glowed under the morning sun. A small voice interrupted his thoughts. "Good morning, husband." It was Sava. She held a tray with breakfast, blue fruit, soft bread, and a hot drink that smelled like cinnamon. Jake smiled. "Thanks, Sava." She sat beside him. "The first moon rises tomorrow. You have to choose soon." Jake sighed. "I know." Sava looked down. "Do you miss your home?" Jake thought for a moment. "Earth? A little. But honestly, I never felt like I belonged there either." She tilted her head. "Maybe. That's why you're here." Just then, the estate shook. Boom. Jake jumped up. "What was that?" Sava stood. "Training grounds. Riella must be preparing." Sure enough, Rila entered the room a few minutes later, her armor dusty and her face calm. "My training is done," she said. "Now I want to show him the fire cliffs." Sava nodded and left quietly. Jake followed Rila through narrow paths and rock bridges, deep into the wild hills. They reached the edge of a great canyon. Hot wind blew up from below, and red light danced along the cliffside. "This is where my trial began," Rila said. "Velzari found me here after I lost. My family, she saved me." Jake looked at her. "And now you want to save others?" She nodded. "I serve House Triveth with honor. If you join our house, I want to know you can face heat, fear, and truth." Jake smiled. "Let me guess. I have to climb down?" Rila handed him 2 gloves and a pair of sharp boots. Only halfway. They started climbing. The heat rose fast. Jake's muscles burned, and sweat poured down his face. Still, he didn't stop. Halfway down, they rested on a ledge. The lava below bubbled like a red ocean. Rila looked at Jake. "You are not like the others who tried." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Others?" "Yes," she said. 3 before you. They failed." Jake laughed weakly. "That's comforting." Rila leaned close. "But you don't quit. I respect that." Jake looked into her eyes. For a moment, the heat didn't matter. That evening, it was Myrix's turn again. She led Jake to a flying platform that hovered above the sea. Stars twinkled above them, and soft music played from hidden speakers. "Why are we up here?" Jake asked. "Because," Myrix said, "this is the last night before the moon rises. If I'm going to lose you, I want one perfect memory." Jake frowned. "Lose me?" She looked away. "I know I'm not like Rila or Sava. I talk too much, fight too hard. I push people away." Jake sat beside her. "You're clever, brave, and honest. I like that." Myrix looked surprised. Then she laughed quietly. "You're either very kind or very blind." She moved closer. "Want to know a secret?" Jake nodded. "I asked Mother to invite you that day in the market. I saw the whiskey. I saw you, and I wanted to know what kind of human still walks into alien markets with nothing but a bottle and hope." Jake blinked. "So, this whole thing started with you?" She grinned. "Maybe." They sat in silence for a while. The stars moved slowly above. Then Myrix whispered, "If you choose me, I won't ask you to change. I'll just ask you to stay." Later that night, Jake found himself alone on the balcony again. The sky was clear. The first moon would rise tomorrow night. By then, he had to choose. One daughter, or none, or all. His heart was heavy. They were all strong in different ways. Each one made him feel something different. With Rila, he felt strong. With Sava, he felt calm. With Myrix, he felt alive. He heard footsteps. It was Velzari. "You look troubled," she said. Jake chuckled. "Understatement of the year." She stood beside him. "You've done more than I expected. You gave them laughter again. You gave them challenge." Jake looked at her. "You planned all this, didn't you?" Velzari smiled gently. "I offered you a place to stay. You chose to stay longer." Jake nodded. "True." She handed him a small silver disc. "This will let you leave quietly before the moon rises. No shame, no pain. But if you stay, you must speak from your heart." Jake held the disc. It was cold. Velzari walked away. Jake sat there for a long time, holding the silver disc in one hand and his heart in the other. The next morning, he woke early. The sky was red and orange. Birds sang. The moon hung low in the sky, waiting to rise. He dressed and walked into the hall of choice. It was a round chamber with glass walls and a crystal floor. Velzari stood at the center. The daughters stood to one side. The house staff, robots, and noble guests waited silently. Jake stepped forward. Velzari's voice was clear. "Jake Marlowe, human of Earth. Do you wish to leave this house, or choose one of my daughters as your bonded partner?" Jake took a deep breath. Everyone watched. "I choose," he said slowly, "to speak with all of them first." Gasps filled the hall. Velzari allowed it. "Speak." Jake turned to Rila. "You taught me strength doesn't mean silence. You're brave, honest, and you made me feel like I could do anything." He turned to Sava. "You reminded me that soft hands can build great things. You're gentle and smart. Being with you made me feel at peace." He turned to Myrix. "You made me laugh. You made me think fast. You made me feel alive. Even when I was scared." He looked at all three. "I can't pick just one of you, because I don't want just one part of this house. I want all of it. The strength, the mind, the fire." He turned to Velzari. "Is there a way to choose all three?" Silence followed. Then Velzari smiled. "You ask not for power, nor comfort, nor control. You ask for unity. In our culture, that is rare." She looked at her daughters. Rila nodded. Sava smiled. Myrix smirked. "Called it." Velzari raised her hand. "Then so be it. You are now husband to the daughters of House Triveth." The hall exploded in cheers. Jake stood there, stunned. "What just happened?" Myrix grabbed his hand. "You just married 3 alien women, Earth boy." The first moon had risen. It glowed in the alien sky, huge and golden, lighting up the estate with soft light. Music played in the air, floating gently from crystal towers. House Triveth was hosting a grand feast to celebrate Jake's bonding. With the 3 daughters, Rila, Sava, and Myrix, nobles from different parts of Goran 5 arrived in ships shaped like birds and stars. They wore tall crowns, glowing robes, and moved with pride. Everyone wanted to see the human who had won the hearts of not one, but 3 daughters of a noble house. Jake stood at the center of the feast hall, wearing ceremonial clothes. A long, dark coat with silver lines and a small golden badge shaped like 3 stars. He still felt like a man in someone else's dream. Rila stood beside him, calm and tall. Sava smiled shyly, gently holding his arm. Myrix leaned on his other side, flashing. A grin at anyone who stared too long. "Why are they all looking at me?" Jake whispered. "Because," Myrix said, "you're either a legend or a very lucky fool." Jake laughed nervously. "Can't I be both?" Suddenly, the music stopped. A booming voice echoed through the hall. "I object to this bonding." All, eyes turned toward the main gate. A tall alien figure walked in. He wore black and red armor with sharp golden shoulder plates. His eyes were cold, and his voice was full of pride. "House Velkron does not accept this farce." Velzari stood slowly. "Lord Drazul, this is not your house. You speak out of place." Drazul sneered. "Your daughter, Sava, was promised. To my son years ago. A treaty made between houses, signed and sealed." Gasps filled the room. Sava stepped forward, shaking. "That promise was broken when your son mocked our family. He insulted our bond, our ways." Jake stood beside her. "If she said no, that's the end of it." Drazul's eyes narrowed. "You, human, you dare speak in a noble court?" Jake stepped forward. "I may be human, but I'm bonded to this house. That means I stand beside them, no matter what." Rila reached for her blade. Mirix's hands sparked with energy, but Velzari lifted her hand. "We settle this the old way," she said. Drazul smiled. "The challenge of proof?" "Yes," Velzari answered. "Let the council judge. Let the human show his worth." Jake blinked. "Wait, what challenge?" Mirix whispered. "Don't worry. It's only slightly dangerous." Jake groaned. Great. The challenge of proof was ancient. It took place in a sacred arena built into the side of a mountain. A crowd gathered under the moonlight. Lights danced across the stone walls, and a platform rose in the center. It was part trial, part test, part game, but to the nobles of Gorin 5, it was serious business. Jake stood on one side of the platform. He wore light armor and held a staff. Across from him stood Drazul's champion, a giant four-armed warrior with glowing skin and thick armor. "You only need to knock him off the platform," Rila had said earlier. "Easier said than done," Jake replied. The match began with a loud gong. The champion charged. Jake rolled to the side, barely dodging. The staff shook in his hands. He ducked another swing and jabbed the warrior's knee. It barely moved him. "Think, Jake," he muttered to himself. "Don't fight harder, fight smarter." He remembered what Mirix said. Unpredictable moves win battles. He faked a stumble. The champion rushed in. Jake suddenly spun low and jabbed the back of the warrior's leg. The big alien stumbled. Jake jumped and flipped, kicking him in the back. Still, the warrior didn't fall. He grabbed Jake and threw him into the air. Jake landed hard and rolled, dizzy. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on!" He looked up and saw something. The warrior kept stepping near the edge after each charge. Jake waited. The champion charged again. Jake ran forward too, but at the last second, he slid under the warrior's legs, tripped him with the staff, and shoved with all his strength. The warrior fell, right off the platform. The crowd roared. Velzari stood with pride. Challenge passed, bond confirmed. Jake collapsed, breathing hard. Sava ran to him, eyes full of joy. Mirix smirked. "Told you. Slightly dangerous." Rila helped him up. "You did well," Drazul growled, but turned and walked away in shame. Back at the estate, the celebration continued. Music returned, louder than before. Food and drink flowed. Nobles clapped Jake's back and called him the clever human, but Jake didn't care about fame. He looked at his wives. Yes, wives now. That word felt strange but warm. Rila, quiet, but proud. Sava, gentle and glowing. Mirix, wild and full of fire. Jake raised his glass. To strange choices and stranger love. They raised their glasses too. Velzari watched from her seat, eyes full of peace. For the first time in years, her daughters were happy. For the first time in Jake's life, he felt like he truly belonged. Later, that night, Jake walked out onto the balcony alone. The moon was high. Stars filled the sky. Footsteps followed. It was Velzari. "You did something rare," she said. Jake smiled. "Survive the challenge?" She laughed softly. No, you made 3 very different women fall in love without trying to change them. That is rare. Jake looked down at the estate. I'm just a guy who sells whiskey. Velzari placed a hand on his shoulder. Now you're more. You are part of this house, a bridge between Earth and Goran 5, between love and honor. Jake nodded slowly. Feels heavy? It is, she said, but it's also worth it. Far above, the moon watched quietly. Below, House Triveth shined bright, and somewhere deep in his heart, Jake knew this strange alien world, this family of warriors, builders, and rebels, this wild twist of fate, it was the best deal he had ever made. The morning after the first moon celebration, the estate of House Triveth was alive with quiet energy. The guests had left, the music had stopped, and a new day began, one filled with the unknown. Jake Marlowe sat at the edge of a glowing pool, watching the water ripple softly under the alien sun. His thoughts swirled like the liquid around him. He was now officially bonded to Rila, Sava, and Mirix. He was their husband. But what did that really mean? As he sat, Velzari approached, her silver-blue skin glowing softly in the morning light. You look troubled again, she said gently. Jake smiled faintly. I'm thinking about what comes next. How does a human live with 3 alien wives? How do I keep them happy? And what about me? Velzari sat beside him. It will be a new life, yes, but one built on respect, trust, and choice. You don't have to change who you are. You will grow together. Jake nodded. I hope I can. Later that day, the 3 daughters gathered around Jake. Each wore different clothes, bright and colorful, reflecting their personalities. Rila stood tall and proud. You fought with strength and honor? We respect you. Sava smiled softly. You helped me build. You listened to me. Mirix smirked. And you survived my games. Barely. Jake laughed. You 3 are something else. Rila's green eyes glinted. That is why we share you. Jake blinked. Wait. Share me? Sava nodded. In our culture, it is not strange. We love differently, yes, but with respect. Each of us has her place. Mirix leaned in. And don't worry, we have ways to make sure no one feels left out. Jake felt a mix of confusion and excitement. How do we start? He asked. Over the next few weeks, Jake's life changed in many ways. He learned to live with 3 daughters who all had different needs and strengths. Rila taught him survival skills, how to track alien creatures, how to read the stars, and how to stay calm in danger. Sava showed him the beauty of creation, building machines, writing codes, and reading stories from other worlds. Mirix challenged him every day with games, puzzles, and teasing jokes. She made him laugh when he wanted to give up. Each day was different. Each moment was new. Jake realized he was not just a husband. He was a student, a friend, and a partner. One evening, Jake sat in the main hall with Velzari. We must talk. About your role in the galaxy? She said seriously. Jake looked up. Role? Velzari nodded. You are more than a husband now. You are a symbol, a bridge between Earth and Goran 5, between humans and aliens. Jake smiled. I never wanted to be famous. Sometimes, fate chooses for us, Velzari said. You will help open trade, help build peace. Jake thought about his ship, Earth, and the whiskey that started it all. Maybe I can do that. Months passed. Trade between Earth and Goran 5 flourished. Jake traveled between worlds, always returning to House Triveth. His bond with the 3 daughters grew stronger. Rila became his protector, watching over him with quiet strength. Sava became his heart, sharing dreams and soft words. Mirix became his spark, keeping life wild and exciting. They were different, but together they made a family. One night, Under the glow of twin moons, Jake stood on the balcony. His hand held the small bottle of whiskey that started it all. Rila, Sava, and Myrix joined him. "We have a gift for you," Sava said, handing him a small, glowing pendant. "It is the symbol of House Triveth," Velzari explained, appearing behind them. "It means you are part of us, forever." Jake looked at the pendant, then at his wives. He smiled wide. "All I wanted was to sell a bottle of whiskey," he said softly. "Now I have 3 wives, a family, and a place in the stars." Rila took his hand. "And we have you." Myrix grinned. Earth never knew what it was missing. Sava leaned close. "Neither did we." Jake looked up at the stars. A new life, a new family, and a new world awaited him. And this time, he was ready.